think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
I don't know whether rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 9, 7.
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Well, good evening, and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we get weird. Well, when don't we get weird? But check it out. Recently on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, only one of the biggest podcasts in the world, they were talking about UFOs. They were talking about angels and demons. They were talking about John Keel and something known as the super spectrum. Now, it caught my attention because this is an idea that has gone back years for us kind of flirting with the idea in the periphery of kind of looking at this in different ways and considering those control mechanisms I'm always talking about. But in this particular case, John Keel, of course, of the Mothman Prophecies fame, the movie there, and Mothman, you guys know him, and links are in the description if you guys are not up to speed on any of this stuff. Like I said, I want to make sure that all the source material is there so you can read up and kind of do some continued deep diving on this. But basically, John Keel, Mothman, and one of the guys that gets a lot of credit for defining what the paranormal means in the modern day, and specifically because he went to Point Pleasant and what was it for the Mothman sightings in West Virginia, and when was this? I don't know. I don't know the dates. It's all over the place here. But basically, he did a whole bunch of investigating and expected to find, he thought he was investigating flying saucers, lights in the sky. But it turns out things were quite a bit more bizarre than he ever dreamed. And he ended up writing a bunch of stuff, not just this, The Eighth Tower, I believe, is another one that he wrote, and all kinds of wild things in terms of defining what these things are. And what I mean by these things is the high strangeness, the entities, the lights in the sky, the paranormal encounters, all the things that really kind of make us, interested in these topics and these ideas. And so, yeah, and the idea of the super spectrum came up. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is. I'm going to just let Diana Pasulka tell you, because I've got the clips here from the Joe Rogan podcast. If you don't know who she is, that is Diana Pasulka there on the screen. And shout out High Strangeness at Highly Strange on X for clipping this out. But I clipped it further. We got a couple clips here. I'm going to play these, but it's better to hear it explained probably more succinctly from somebody who knows what the hell they're doing, unlike me, just kind of hip shooting half the time. But anyway, so Keel tonight and the idea of the super spectrum. Now, what exactly is that? I'm glad you asked. Action.
Basically, the super spectrum. Okay. And it's here with us now, just like you said. It's around us, but you and I can't see it. But some people do see it, and some people interact with it and have, like, it breaks into their reality. And for those people, he thinks that they're unlucky because all the things that happen to them, like Men in Black show up. He thinks things like the beginning of all religions is basically about someone who had an interface with a para being, like one of these para-humans in the super spectrum. So it's kind of like an invisible reality all around us, according to John Keel. John Keel was a pal of Jacques Vallée's. He's passed away, but his books are really amazing. And if you want to get an idea about the super spectrum and the phenomena, you should watch that movie of his called Mothman Prophecies. It's really good. It's really good. And I'm sorry, her voice annoys me a little bit, but I'll get over it. Okay, so the thing is this, that this Mothman bit, it really was sort of the beginning of that modern idea of high strangeness. When, we talk about these ideas in the past of being, you can kind of dissect them, and the ghosts can stay over here and the UFOs can stay over here. And, the idea of that the umbrella of high strangeness itself didn't really kind of get mixed up into this larger space, at least in modern terms, until Keel and Jacques Vallée and some of these other people kind of started pointing out these similarities, not just through folklore and mythology, but of course through these other ideas that they pioneered through some of the fiction and some of the journalism that they did and all the studies over the years. Part 2, Diana Pasulka on the Joe Rogan podcast, and let's hear it.
And so this super spectrum,
yeah,
like what does he think that is?
So he thinks that it's a like a space all around us. It's been here forever. It controls us. It controls humanity because it sends things like, he thinks UFOs are part of it. He thinks Virgin Mary apparitions are part of it. He thinks ghosts are part of it. So any kind of woo thing is there in the super spectrum. And sometimes some people have the ability to see what's in the super spectrum. And he thinks they're cursed. Now, he thinks angels are part of the super spectrum. So he doesn't make any kind of distinction between the good things in it and the bad things. He said they're all bad.
They're all bad, very trickster-esque. And that's what kind of caught my attention when I was listening to this and kind of just going through the ideas. And, I've had this in my back pocket for several days now, kind of doing some digging and learning some things about what this is and what it means. And certainly it lands in that space of what I like to call that control mechanism. And she uses the term as well. But it's this weird thing that you cannot really measure or quantify. It's the write-up has a very good beginning there. I'll read it when we come back after the break. But this is what this is about. It's sort of this unseen, unmeasurable field, okay, that's controlling us in some ways, and even in insidious ways, in bad ways. Like Keel was not high on the idea that we were being manipulated in good ways to be better people. We were actually instead dealing with some sort of nefarious force here. And anyway, part 3, and then I'll read you the beginning of the thing to kind of set this in, let the idea bake, and then we'll talk to James and Matthew in Colorado. We are taking your calls tonight, as always. Here we go, part 3, and this is the last clip, and then we'll just talk. Here we go.
If there's one that appears to be good, it's actually bad. So again, he started, he was kind of like a Charles Fort type guy. So he started to get a lot of these events, and you study them and everything like that. And over years, he developed a theory that these were nasty things, and that they were, like, even if they appeared good, and that they were at the beginning of all religions. All religions come from the super spectrum. Obviously not that part about how it's like Catholicism, but, religions tend to have theological categories that talk about things like the super spectrum. So what Jacques talks about in his books, it sounds very similar to, his control mechanism, and is very similar to John Keel's idea.
And I dig it. There you go. My term that I always use, control mechanism. And like, I don't use it lightly. I do recognize that we are, sovereign beings of a sovereign mind space. But I do think that, an individual is smart. But when you get a group of people together, then suddenly we get that sort of dumb collective hive mind where, one person says, hey, there he is, get him. And then everybody sort of inexplicably just starts to chase whoever or something. It's just like this mind virus that's always going around as part of this control and suggestion and all the things we've always talked about as part of it. But anyway, that puts us where we need to be. Let's get a quick word from our sponsor. Shout out Jack in Oregon. Good to hear from him the other night. Thank you for all the amazing calls on Sunday night, by the way. So much good stuff there. It was a marathon and it was just packed full of amazing people with amazing ideas. So thank you to each and every one of you that were contributed to that, and so many fire calls. Be right back. More Troubled Minds in just one moment. This one is from Jack. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Let's see. Let's find the button. Oh, my buttons. Okay. All right. Be right back. More Troubled Minds in just one moment. Catch you on the other side of the break. Feeling stressed? Overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset and let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so now back to Keel and this idea of the super spectrum. Okay, now I'll read the beginning of the write-up here because it's very good. It kind of explains exactly what we're dealing with. Here we go, straight from the write-up. Do check it out. It's a good one tonight, as many times they are. But right now, passing through the chair you are sitting in, there is radio waves, of course. Above it, microwave. Below it, the slow infrared bleeding off your own skin. Ultraviolet that a bee would read like a billboard. Somewhere out past the ceiling, X-rays. Every band of it is in the room with you at this exact moment, and not one of them is available to you because the equipment you were issued at birth resolves a single thin ribbon in the dead center of an enormous spectrum. You are not seeing the room. You are seeing the part of the room your eyes were built to catch. Everything else is here too, and you were simply never given the organ to receive it. John Keel took that fact, which is not a theory, but a plain description of physics, and did something reckless with it. He decided it was not a fact about light. He decided it was a fact about reality. And the argument he built on that decision is the most useful idea anyone has ever purposed for the thing we keep calling contact, precisely because it explains why contact never behaves the way contact should. And that brings us back to the idea of the trickster and sort of this Keel was very suspicious of this thing that he thought he was tuning into or describing or seeing or sensing. And I don't blame him, because when we talk about control mechanisms, these are sort of the unseen, the kind of bubble below our nervous system, the kind of bubble below our even unconscious thought and our subconscious at that level. And it's doing things to us that we don't ever really recognize until sometimes it's too late. And that's really what this is about. And like I said, I talk about this stuff a lot because that idea of a control mechanism sits heavily with me, because I wonder what brings about mass hysteria. I wonder why, a person is smart, but a group of people are panicky and unpredictable and violent and all the things that we've seen over the course of history. And I don't know, there's something to this that I really love the idea, because I think there's something here. And whether it's measurable, whether this is going to be, something that science catches eventually, maybe, as usual, right? All the maybes apply. And it's a good time to drop all the disclaimers too. Look, there's no truth to be found here. This is just ideas. This is just a conversation. This is just sort of the philosophical construct, okay, of just ideas and what we're looking at, what we're dealing with, and the seen, the unseen, and the seen realm, and how they come together, etc., so on. So we are taking your calls tonight. Once again, 702-857-6939. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show just like this. Thanks for being patient, my man. James Salcedo, what's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? And I know you'll know a little bit about John Keel. How do you feel about it? And what do you know about the super spectrum? Welcome to the thing.
Yeah, I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. I got your volume adjusted properly. Go ahead. Take it wherever you like, as you know, because there's so much here as part of this. But we're going to be focusing on the super spectrum. But Keel did so much that I think it's worthy of wide ranging. And let's do it.
Yeah, I've listened to the Mothman Prophecies first. To anyone that hasn't checked out that book, I highly recommend it because it's not just about the Mothman itself. It's about everything else that was weird that happened. I believe it was between 66 and 67 that happened. That was not just this creature that was seen. Again, it was people, strange people, not even necessarily dressed all in black, but acting like the traditional men in black do, or have been said to do. It was lights, not necessarily always craft, just lights seen in the sky. It was devices in people's homes acting weird when there were lights in the sky or when there were other things happening. So it was all sorts of anomalous things. And so Keel's books have always been fascinating to me. I think the only thing I've ever disagreed with him overall is that everything is bad, or everything is evil, which seems to be what he was thinking. But that's just based on personal experience in my case. But yeah, great topic, and I do think this is all. I mean, it seems to be all about different kinds of energy and different just the ways that they can work and on us and with us and against us and all those things.
Yeah, agreed. And the weird part about this is so it's called the super spectrum is what he referred to it as, but it is basically the encapsulation of the full paranormal. I mean, the entirety of high strangeness sort of packed into this, which, you know, Jacques Vallée talked about in Passport to Magonia. We've talked about this in the past quite a lot. And the trickster archetype that really embodies what this thing is, this big P phenomenon. Phenomena, plural, because there's many more, right? And so nobody really knows and knows how to quantify this, but that's why this is important to look at through the through the lens of other thinkers, of other people that did a ton of work. And Keel did a ton of work, again, spending years there in Point Pleasant. And just kind of like James was saying, trying to put the pieces together to figure out what the hell was going on. And none of it made enough sense to really put a name to it other than what we've got from the book and, you know, some of the what the hell is this type of stuff. But beyond that, he had this theory. And it also goes into his next book, The Eighth Tower, which was incredible too. We did a show on that a ways back, which is wild stuff with the wizards and the towers and the chanting and bringing in the evil or keeping the evil at bay. I mean, there's so much stuff in that book. It's wild. So I'll see if I can dig that one out and put a link in the description, or I think you can just search the archive and it'll be there on the website. But anyway, so what do you think about that, the paranormal as this idea of the super spectrum itself, the big P phenomenon? Do you think that we actually are dealing with something here that is more of like a curtain, more of a film, more of some kind of frequency than we are dealing with, you know, a flying saucer or a ghost per se? Do you think that makes any kind of sense in this context?
I think it can all be the same. It can all be both. And especially I do like his idea that nothing really came from a galaxy far, far away, so to speak, that it was already here. The idea of ultra-terrestrials and all that as well. I do think that maybe the curtain is the thing that keeps us from or allows us to sense things that and or our own abilities, and the things that we sense maybe are these other things. Not saying that they're necessarily that we have a name for them, we have the right name for them, but things that appear as UFOs or appear as ghosts or appear as lights. All these things that are out there. And it, to me, it explains in a way why not everyone has the same experiences. I've had a lot of different experiences, but I can say I've never seen or had an encounter with any kind of a creature or cryptid. I've had dealings with ghosts, whatever they are, and I've seen some lights in the sky and had telepathic contact with them, so aliens, you could say, in a way. But haven't had the whole cryptid encounter yet, which I'm okay with, to be honest.
Cryptids are creepy crawlies. They might bite you. I don't want to see one either, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I do for science, but I don't want to get bit by one. Let's put it that way. And that's where this gets weird, because in Point Pleasant, when he was doing this, there was a ton of stuff. And so the Mothman itself was this, giant 7-foot winged humanoid with the red glowing eyes that's sort of accosted people in secluded areas. And not just that, it was a cryptid encounter, a cryptid sighting, and an event, multiple events, but then also all this other stuff James was describing. So is it related? And is it a way for sort of the idea of the super spectrum itself to kind of perturb the mind space of people, kind of take the lazy way of, think in terms of a dimensional entity or something that's here with us, but it's not always here. It's just sort of present, and it can make itself known by sort of dipping through the veil, whatever that looks like, and causing whatever pandemonium or chaos or fear or whatever. And so this feels kind of like the lazy way through the idea of the super spectrum, and kind of let's razz some humans today and see what kind of comes of this, and kind of dip in and dip out and then disappear for decades at a time, or maybe move to different parts of the world. I don't know, but I mean, that's where this really becomes strange, because you got to wonder if something like that is possible, then it means we've been dealing with this forever. And I think that was part of his larger theory anyway. It's not brand new to the 60s, to the late 60s. This is something that's literally been here, and we've been dealing with it, trying to give it a name for as long as we've been telling stories and that oral tradition that goes all the way back. So I think this is important to talk about and to think about, because maybe, just maybe, there's something to this that's a little bit more than anybody gives it enough credit for. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and I like, there's a part later on in the write-up there that talks about the predictions that were made by these different beings, and a lot of those were done over the phone or through other witnesses, basically contactees, that did not happen the way they were supposed to happen. Or the date was wrong, but the event may have been seemed to be somewhat accurate. And we've seen this throughout time, just like you were saying. Predictions of things that were going to happen. And I always wonder, when it comes to, why these things don't play out exactly the way they're said that they're supposed to. Is it that these other beings are, and again, I don't know, but are they tricking people, or are they just seeing into other versions of reality where these things do happen at the right times, at the right places? But somehow they're not able to differentiate between the different realms or whatever, different levels of reality, and that's why they appear to be wrong here.
Yeah, and often not necessarily corporeal, and there's so many weird parts about this that kind of makes you scratch your head and wonder if it is some sort of field, something we tune into, or something that tunes into us. And so really, that's what the question is tonight. What do you know about the idea of the super spectrum? And does it make sense that the big P phenomenon itself is actually not a thing, not an entity, but more of like an unseen, unmeasurable field that we've always been in contact with as long as humans have been around, but really without the organ or the apparatus, the biology to actually parse through it. And that becomes, the maybe tonight as we drink the maybe juice. What do you know about it? And how weird does it get, of course, is my favorite question to ask, because that's exactly the point. I'm calling it still broadcasting, the super spectrum. And of course, it is still broadcasting. Anything else, James? Got about 30 seconds. And of course, you're welcome to stay, and we'll come back and get more from you.
Yeah, happy to sit in. And I think this is an amazing idea. And I do think that all creatures, probably animals as we know them, probably are in this too. And there's plenty of accounts of people having experiences where their animals or their pets seem to react as well.
Exactly. And we've talked about that quite a lot in the past. What do you know about this? We're talking the super spectrum tonight. James Salcedo is here with us, of course, the glue of the show, the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds. You know him, you love him. SalcedoParanormal.com, SALSIDO Paranormal.com. I'm talking the still broadcasting, the super spectrum, and John Keel and the Big P phenomenon. Do you think it's probably, maybe, not a thing, but some sort of actual field that's been here, immeasurable, from the dawn of time? 702-857-6939. This is Troubled Minds on Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. Nobody on the line if you guys want to jump in here. Catch you on the other side of the break.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
One to 7. Count the colors you get. The middle. You lose the rest. There's radio in the chair you're in. There is heat coming off of your skin. There's a color that bees can see that was never meant for me. The room is full, and you were only built for a sliver of it all. You thought they came a long, long way. You thought there was a sky to cross. Nobody moved, nobody came. There was nowhere else for them to be. We were never being visited. We were being tuned. Something standing in the bands in the dark side of the room. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you can see you fine. It's been standing in the rest of the room the whole time. Too much to stand in the light, so it reaches in and it rearranges your night. 3 people in a field, 3 different things revealed. It never built a thing at all. It just moved a little furniture behind your eyes. The engine died, the compass spun. Your eyes were burning by the dawn. That's not a ship, that's not a craft. That's the pressure of a thing that don't belong. We will never be invisible.
What's up, guys? Kind of like that one. I hope everybody's well tonight. I see there Matt Sal, Lunging Mule. What's up, Satcha, Joe in Florida, DTM. We got the Robert, Daryl, and Roving Fungus. Welcome back. Glad to see you there. Who else do we got over on YouTube? You guys are the best. Thanks for being nice to each other. What's up, Logan got first? How you doing? GR Hutch. What's up, James, Ioxy, Nostra? Good evening over there on YouTube and on Rumble. Good evening. Hope everybody's well. Hello. Let's see. Matt Sal, Ioxy. Roving Fungus. That's I love Diana Pasolka. Very smart. Very smart. Stephen England. How you doing? What's up, Jen? Hello. Good evening. Hello. What's up? Dan is here. Hi. Let's see. If I missed anybody, Fred, welcome back. Don't worry. I'll circle back around and get you. What's up, Sweets? How you doing? Good evening. Hello. Over on Rumble, we got Nostra was first there, I believe. We got Carl Raz is here. What's up, Puff? We got the Puff sighting. Hello. Alien Poop Evolution. And you guys are the best. James was first over there, actually. Anyway, here we go. Trouble Minds happening now. If I missed you, I'll circle around and say hi. Let's go. Let's talk John Keel. Let's talk the super spectrum. Followed by a beer. welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, human eyes catch one thin ribbon of the electromagnetic spectrum. The rest is in the room with you right now, and you have no organ to receive it. John Keel decided that was not a fact about light. It was a fact about reality. We were never being visited. We were being tuned into instead. And that's, of course, the idea of this super spectrum. And like I said, I got this idea from, which inspired me recently. I'd heard of this before, of course, but never did the deep digging on it. But I was inspired by, of course, the Joe Rogan podcast, Diana Pasolka talking about this. I played those clips to start. And the link will be in the description of that if you want to watch the entire thing in its in full. As well, you should because there's a lot of great ideas there. So, look, I don't know. You know me. I can kind of see the world in a lot of different ways, and that's to me, it's a superpower. Being able to kind of set aside your preconceived notions and instead look at the world around you differently from other people's perspectives and how they describe things. And and there's no other way to really encapsulate this than talking to people who have had experiences, or the experiencer community, meaning that if you've seen something strange, talking to individuals that have seen these things, that have experienced this, big P phenomenon in one way or another, whether that's aliens or ghosts or lights in the sky or what have you, then suddenly you start to see the world differently. And that's a very good thing. That's not what we're here to kind of poo-poo on this stuff. Where, me personally, I'm like, okay, there might be something to this. And I think clearly, it's there's enough to it that I spend a ton of time thinking about it and talking about it. So I don't know. What do you think there is, instead of us being visited by some entity or group of entities like extraterrestrials? John Keel was more into the idea of the ultra-terrestrial, the entity that's been here forever. And I would call them the primordial nature spirit. It is one of my favorite ideas of these entities that go back forever in human evolution and human history, and actually are able to manipulate us in ways that we never dreamed, the Fey realm and things like this. So, I mean, look, I don't know how to really talk about that without sounding like a quack, other than to just be like, hey, let's talk about it, because it seems like maybe, just maybe, there's something to this. And that's why these ideas are important to me, because if they get left behind and made fun of and kind of cast aside, then maybe we're doing ourselves a disservice. I like to keep these things top of mind, keep it fresh, and talk about what it means. All these ideas mean not from 1967 and 68 and John Keel and all the rest of his Mothman book, but what it means in 2026. And is it still a fresh idea? Has it evolved? And can you see maybe science catching up to these older ideas, or not? As usual, or nah, also plays one way or the other. And I'm not trying to make a case here, other than I lean woo because it's far more fascinating to talk about, because we don't know what we don't know. But I'm also open to the idea that, now, Mike, I don't think there's anything to this one. That's okay too. That's the whole point of talking to each other, because maybe there's a blind spot I've got that you guys see very, very clearly. And let's talk. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, anything to add? Welcome back, and thanks for being patient. And yeah, super spectrum. I don't know, a creepy idea for sure, but it feels as if maybe this field, this paranormal field per se, really has some legs, at least conceptually, in my mind. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at similarities, I think we've talked about this before, where there's certain things that are thought to be different things, and yet they appear the same way, like lights, where if you see a light in a house, it's thought to be a ghost. If you see a light in a forest, it's thought to be a nature spirit or just energy from the planet itself. If you see light in the space, or in the sky, it's an alien. But if we just go with what is being seen, it's a light, and it's a light. And then there's also the similarities when it comes to that idea I've heard in recent years of aliens, whatever they may be, possibly being Fey. Again, putting on that disguise, fairy or fairy, putting on the disguise or appearance to fit the times. And it seems like that has gone back to even to them to begin with, in terms of just the ideas of what people thought was maybe possible, and just beyond that. It seems like that kind of idea And that kind of method has been going on for a very long time now, probably going back to the beginning of humans, possibly, where there's what people have been able to figure out or what they've thought was going on. And then there's always that extra of what is beyond that people have thought about and or possibly seen. And so I wonder how much of that, and I do think there's probably, multiple things going on. So not all aliens are Fae and so on and so on. But it seems like it's possible that there could be many, many things going on, and that could be one of them where it's just changing appearance over time.
Yeah, which would be more in line with the Jacques Vallée theory, which I don't think, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody out there knows this, but I don't think Jacques Vallée was more into the idea like Keel here, that everything that we encounter in this sort of high strangeness space is evil, or twisting things intentionally to, bring about the demons or something, or, are themselves directly demons. I think that he was a little bit more open-minded about what they are. And maybe there's an ambiguous space to this that it could be like that trickster archetype of the Fae, right? The Fae folk were known to be brutal tricksters, and even to the point where they could pull a joke and cause loss of life, and it was funny to them, right? Because they didn't really value human life like we do, clearly, because they're not human. And again, if you don't believe in the Fae, the fairies, or whatever, that's fine too. But we're talking folklore in that capacity. And as James very smartly pointed out, I think maybe this is that sort of larger field that does take into account the zeitgeist, the actual zeitgeist we're talking about, the noosphere of ideas, and that suddenly maybe we're going to start seeing robots manifest in our mind's eye, because certainly robots are going to be everywhere in the physical world, coming soon to a household near you or whatever. But I think beyond that, we got the gray alien has certainly been one of the major archetypes for this sort of spooky encounter space of contact for decades now. And really moving into maybe another space of these techno cryptids or some of these other things. Look, I don't know those answers or what comes next, of course, but I can see how it has changed over the years, whether it's going to be the Fae folk, the gray alien. We've talked about werewolves recently. Like, who knows how this manifests in a particular space and time in the world, a particular geography. But fire stuff. Appreciate that. James, you were the man. What else you got? If anything, go ahead.
Yeah, I do think, because I've listened to some of both of Keel's books and Vallée's books, and it does seem like Vallée was a little bit more open to there being good and or bad, or the same beings maybe doing both overall. So I do think that was the case, as far as I can tell. Again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong as well, but he seemed to be a little more open to that. I do think it's also fascinating how there are just so many reports throughout time and up until now of shapeshifters, of beings that can change shape and or appearance. And if that is part of all this, then they can literally appear however they want to, whoever or whatever they are, and not even saying that they are all the same thing with the same agenda. But in other words, an alien or a fairy could appear as a Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot could appear as a shadow figure, or just all these different things that seem to be, there's reports of similar behavior and encounters with many of these things.
Yeah, well said. And that becomes really the question here is are we dealing with not an entity, but a frequency? I don't know. John Keel called it the super spectrum. What do you call it? 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Thanks for being patient, friends. Let's go to Matthew in Colorado. What's up, my man? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you tonight? Just hit the green button, the high five, and then unmute yourself and go right ahead. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Shout out Dragon Rose. I see you there. How you doing? Matthew in Colorado. Hello, sir. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Testes. All right, I'm reading a little bit more here. Interrupt me. So Keel did not start there. He started in a field. Through 1966 and 1967, a sustained wave of sightings moved across the Ohio Valley and into West Virginia. And Keel, who was a working magazine journalist and not an armchair theorist, went and stood in it. Famously, he did that investigation. He interviewed hundreds of people directly in their kitchens over months, and he went in carrying the same assumption everyone carried. Craft in the sky meant visitors from another planet, which meant the whole business was a problem for engineers and astronomers to eventually solve. That frame held for about as long as it took for him to actually listen to what people were telling him, which is where this super high strangeness comes into effect, because the sightings did not come alone. The same witness who watched a light hang over the tree line would also in the same breath tell him the phone had started ringing with a voice on the other end that sounded mechanical and wrong. And if you've seen the Mothman movie, the Indrid Cold stuff, where the phone line comes through and it's got this really scary mechanical sounding voice. It's a perfect example of all that. But anyway, hang tight, Matthew. Actually, I'm going to put you in here. I'll finish the paragraph and then go to Matthew in a second. Let me finish this paragraph real quick. So objects moved in the house afterward. Livestock died or refused to cross a particular patch of ground. Within days, a stranger would arrive at the door, dressed a half step out of period, asking questions too specific for a man who supposedly knew nothing. And the messages that came through the contactees did not read like a first diplomatic exchange between species. They read like scripture, prophecies with dates attached, warnings, deadlines that arrived and passed with nothing on the other side of them. And it seems like a paranormal psyop of sorts to really spook the town and the area and the county and everything else. So I don't know. What do you know about this? Keel was an interesting character, and the Mothman chronicles themselves are certainly fascinating when it comes to the annals of the high strange. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Matthew in Colorado, test 1 2. Are you there? Negative. Negatory. Nothing going on. Call on the phone line if that's easier, and we'll put you on that way. I'm not sure what's going on with Discord because I can't ever really tell because I don't know. Remember though, if you are going to call in with Discord, make sure you update it before you pop in here, because that type of stuff has plagued us forever. Until I figured out what the hell was going on, is that Discord actually updates itself several times a week. So yeah, we were always using these different weird states. Anything on any of that, James, on the weirdness of not just the entity of Mothman himself, but these other things that were happening that seemed very biblical, very scripture, very prophetic, as you were describing earlier. Anything to add to that? Because I think that there's this is one of those cases that makes you scratch your chin and go, okay, so if all of these things are happening in one particular place, is there one cause, or was there many, many things happening that you can kind of, boil down to a paranormal or an alien or this or that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there was one of the things that was happening around that time during that year or so of sightings that was reported on in the Mothman Prophecies of the book itself. And I've seen this reported from other sources too, is that even as people were having all these experiences, everyone in the general area had this feeling that something was going to happen, something bad was going to happen. And they couldn't place it, and they had no idea why or how. And then they had I think it's a Silver Bridge collapse. And people even had dreams about this before it happened. Their dreams that turned out to be about this, where they had dreams of presents, like Christmas presents, floating in the water near where that bridge was at, and just having this bad feeling. And when the bridge did go down, there were people carrying Christmas presents in their vehicles, so there were likely presents in the water. So there was a lot of, again, this is why that book, I just highly recommend that book for anyone interested in any of these things, because there's so many levels that we can't get to in a single show, even for just that one book, let alone all of Keel's other books.
Yeah, and these larger theories there, and that's the weird part of it too, is that this prophetic stuff, that some of these did come true, some of them partially in sort of fractured ways, and some none at all. And that's the weird part when you're kind of dipping into that idea of seeing the future, kind of through the veil, or through space time itself, and being able to kind of pin down what's going to come next. And would you even bother sending that information through to the meat suit humans out there that are just doing human stuff? I mean, I don't know. to me, you know, I mean, I'm not a frivolous guy. Like, I don't run around trying to agitate people and, you know, kind of scare people, or, you know what I mean? This type confuse people. That's not my way. Like, I'm just a straightforward dude. That's it. But I can see how, you know, there are the trickster archetypes out there in the human space for sure, where, you know, they just kind of get a kick out of, you know, riling people up, or, you know, scaring people, or vice versa, or whatever. So anyway, what do you know about this? I'm calling this the still broadcasting, the super spectrum. And that's a Keel theory from the Mothman prophecies that goes into the eighth tower. And it's really about not contact from somewhere else. It's about this field that's tuning into us. And it's always been here, and it is taking on the faces, and very much in the Passport to Magonia way of Jacques Vallée, that maybe these entities are changing, and we see what it wants us to see based on the time period and things of the belief going on. Anyway, Matthew in Colorado, are you there, bud? Negatory. I have no idea what's going on. That's terrible. Terrible, terrible. I hate when things break. Yeah, like I said, I put the phone number in the thing. Just interrupt me. I'm going to keep talking. And okay. And so that's the thing, right? This is why this is incredibly weird to me, is because all of this stuff, the UFOs, the ghosts, the cryptids, all the weird stuff, prophecy, even prophecies in your dreams, all this stuff kind of fits into this larger context. It's the larger umbrella of high strangeness itself as part of the super spectrum. And I don't know. I don't know if that's real or not, but it certainly seems to ring a little bit true to me in terms of why people see all manner of strange things. And we, like I said, we spent so many years, decades, millennia, hundreds of years and millennia, even trying to define these things, define what a ghost is. Is it a human spirit? Is it some sort of residual frequency of trauma and despair that was left from the past? Is it sort of a tainted spot on the earth? Is it a ley line conjunction of maybe ritual magic that was left there from then, you know, forgotten about a long time ago? I mean, just looking at those ideas in and of themselves really kind of makes you scratch your head and go, okay, so there's a lot there just in terms of a ghost. What the hell does a ghost mean? Then suddenly, once you open up the entire umbrella of high strangeness to everything else too, and consider it might be part of this field, the super spectrum itself, then suddenly we're dealing with something that is far more alien than really you could even sort of point a finger to, because not only can you not see it, you cannot measure it, but it is affecting us in ways that have been, again, chronicled for millennia. So I don't know. I don't know the answers there. You know me, I'm not an answers guy. I'm more of a questions guy, but it does fascinate me. I'm not going to say I'm worried, because that means we've lived. If this is real, it means we've lived with this for forever, for our entire lives, and our ancestors lived with it their the entirety of their lives, and so on and so forth. So I'm not scared of this. I'm not worried about this in particular, but I am kind of phone line is down. Wrong phone line. Hold on. So I don't know if you're there. You go. There's a new phone number, Matthew. There you go. So I was sending that to you. I'm not sure if that's you on the phone right now, but let's go to the phone call. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's why I think this is important to consider, because it may be just sort of one of those woo theories, and I'm okay with that. But it's got enough legs in it and on it that I think that, well, let's consider, what might be and what might not be. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? And go right ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What is going on?
I was calling. I didn't know, but I was reading everything. I've been doing a bunch of other things around the house, but great topic, and it makes no sense, because sometimes I say that any sightings kind of stupid, because why would you fly all the way here in some faraway place just to say hi and stick a probe at somebody's butt and keep going? I did read the write-up, and the write-up is pretty cool, because pretty much halfway through that write-up, you had written about the cost of it, but really, part of my brain is like the capitalism part of it, but it's not. It's the cost of the energy it takes to pierce the veil. And that makes sense. So that's why these things popping out. I think I put in the comments, which we all understand, that we're only seeing a part of this electric holographic universe. If we saw the rest of it, we probably would go mad. Somebody put in there doing mushrooms and stuff, but that makes sense. I mean, the machine elves, all of those things, it's probably so layered, but at the same time, Schrodinger's reality, it exists, it doesn't exist. It's here, it's not here, it's poking fun at us. And then it moves along, almost like we're the entertainment on the lower end of the frequency. And we hear those ideas, those tropes, those theories always come around from science fiction to the reality that we have other dimensions. So these are beings from other dimensions or higher dimensions. Could even be poltergeists that we conjure, but I don't know that I believe that. I'm going to give you an example of something where I've had a lot of synchronicities and coincidences happen in these last few weeks that I should write down that are directly affecting me and setting me down a path. But family came in today, and the woman was like probably 90 and sharp as a tack. Brought her daughter in, was kind of frail, and the daughter comes into our funeral, and she makes the comment, "This place feels like XYZ funeral home." And I look at her and I go, "Did you just say XYZ funeral home, which is the funeral home that I used to work at, that I'm currently pursuing a lawsuit with?" And that funeral home is miles away, right? So I look at her and I go, "Did you just say that?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "When I walked into that funeral home, it was very heavy." And I said, "Huh?" And she goes, "Well, I'm sensitive." But she just opened up and said that to me. And I looked at her and I said, "That's really funny because you just corroborated stories that I've written, a lot of which I've spoken about on the show. Things that I've seen, things that have happened at 2 specific funerals that I worked at. Bad mojo, bad energy, things in the zeitgeist, things in the ether." And when she walked into the place that I'm at, she said, "I'm sad that my dad passed away, but this is okay." And you mentioning earlier, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. So you mentioning earlier in the show that, or from what I was reading, that some people have this sight, that it could be a curse or not a curse. And, I figured Matthew was going to call in. I'm kind of downloading music and stuff because I have another gig on Friday and it's going to be a big deal. But I was like, let me call in. He's not, so hopefully he gets back on the line here. But when that woman told me that happened today, and then she tells me, she goes, "Well, I had a near-death experience when I was 10 years old." And I said, "You need to write about that." She kind of got quiet. And then we just moved along with the paperwork we had to do the cremation. But then you having the show tonight, just kind of, my wife told me tonight, she goes, "You just notice things a lot more. You're more in tune to it." She's starting to believe these things. But I've seen, you see things out of the corner of our eyes, frequency, but the biggest thing, I'll hit that again, was it makes sense is the energy expense, the cost of it, which was in that write-up, which is very good, by the way, because you're right. If something had to punch through the fabric of reality to bend whatever it is it has to bend, it might come here to observe us. It might come here and butt probe us. It might come here and flip off a Sasquatch or a Mothman,
Yeah, well said.
Or it becomes a focal point, or there's a weird sighting, just a weird sighting, and that's a reality, right? So it's a weird sighting, and people start to believe, and then they form their own tulpas. Who knows? That all of us could bend reality together and not know it. Sometimes I feel like I'm bending reality. I'm having things happen more and more, and I'm pushing things on meeting other people to move towards something that I've been pushing for the last few years, right? So the power of 3, the power of belief, people having dreams like, we were talking about the Christmas gifts and stuff. All weird, but not weird. It's observed, it's not observed. And then the other thing is if the Big Bang is true, everything's already happened. We're a shadow of the past. the future's happened. And things maybe not predetermined. I don't know. But other things definitely exist outside of what we can see. It's the reason why dogs and animals, I'm surprised we haven't said anything about that, but dogs and animals sense things or see things differently or stand up at the wall, right? Or why some of us get up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. Lately, I've been doing that, and we get knowledge, especially if you go to bed praying for that. It's just underneath the veil, just what we can maybe sense it. I'm not going to say see it, but sense it. Some of us can maybe make an understanding about it or think we had understanding about it, but we don't. And also what you were saying earlier, what the write-up says is, I don't know that, I can almost tell you that none of this is beneficial. So if it's not beneficial, if it's not helping us, then what's left?
Well said. Well said. I appreciate you jumping in here. Always a pleasure, brother. And great points all. And I'll get to that energy aspect of it because I alluded to that, but I'll get to it more directly. Appreciate you. Thanks for calling. Always a pleasure. You have a great night. You know, I love Joe in Florida, good friend for a long time, and great takes as always. Tonight we're look, I'm calling this super spectrum. Okay, this is what John Keel called it, but it's still broadcasting. Okay, and it's still something we're dealing with. If you believe this is true, of course, it's a theory. It's written in the Mothman Chronicles, and basically, look, real, nah, or somewhere in between. I'm highly fascinated by this stuff. Are you? 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Be right back. We got Matthew in Colorado and a mystery caller coming up north of the Rockies or something. Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
Let's check the news. A San Francisco billboard is currently advertising what it calls the leading chatbot interface powered by AI, but the fine print tells a different story. The service, called ChatTJB, uses AI in a decidedly unconventional sense, average individual. That individual is Tucker Bryant, a former Google staffer and artist who personally reads every query, thinks it over, and writes back, quote, when awake and motivated. Bryant says the project is a response to what researchers at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton Business School call cognitive surrender, the growing tendency of users to stop questioning AI-generated answers entirely, even when those answers are wrong. His solution is a chatbot that is, by design, slower, less accurate, and entirely human. Shifting to the ocean floor, a UK-based startup called Deep has brought its pilot underwater habitat online roughly 56 feet beneath the surface off Florida's Tennessee Reef. The structure, known as the Vanguard, is anchored to the seabed and features sleeping quarters, a science lab, a dive chamber, and a support buoy managing oxygen and communications. Deep's director of scientific research Don Kernagis notes it's been over 40 years since a human undersea habitat was built and launched, and this marks the first privately funded example installed in U.S. waters in decades. Research teams of up to 2 can currently apply for a 5-day stay, with financial awards of up to $50,000 on offer. And in the field of ancient fossils, a remarkable find from southern China is rewriting early reptile history. The creature lived approximately 245 million years ago and is now recognized as the oldest known reptile fossil with preserved internal organs, including portions of its digestive system. The 2-foot-long marine reptile belonged to a broader ancient lineage that would eventually give rise to crocodiles and dinosaurs. Researchers say its anatomy, paddle-like forelimbs, a 71-bone tail, and hips barely connected to its spine, reveals a level of ocean adaptation far more sophisticated than scientists previously believed possible for that lineage at such an early stage. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Indeed. What's up, guys? Hope everybody's well tonight. Just doing Trouble Mind stuff, hanging out. What's up, Matt Sal, Eric, Lungin Mule, Joe in Florida. Thanks for the call fire stuff. What's up, Herschel, Daryl, Dragon Rose, Roving Fungus. Welcome back. Glad to see you there. Great work, Linda, by the way, on all the stuff you're doing there. Follow along if you haven't. Follow our friends. Please do that. The Robert, how you doing? Good evening, guys. And thank you again. By the way, the Robert, I did read your thank you for the kind and generous donations over there on Rumble last time. I don't know if you stayed to the end with us, but I did read your comments, so thank you for that. I just was running a little backed up. We had a ton of calls, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you for that. Who did I miss? What's up, Sherry's here. What's up, Sweets? Carl. Hello, guys. I see you in the chat. Karen has arrived. The party can now begin. Alien Poop Evolution. What's going on, guys? Hello. Nostra, Puff is here. If I missed anybody, just say hi, and I'll say hi back. Trying to do my best to keep up and make it a social stream. Yeah. Yeah. All right, here we go. Trouble Wine's coming up. Mystery caller, more from James, and your calls as well. What do you know about this idea of the Keel's super spectrum? And we're going to keep it tight tonight, so if you want to get in here in the next segment or two. I'm not going to go till midnight tonight. I stayed up way too late editing last time, so I'm not going to do that. So we're going to end it right at 9. So if you want to get in here, get in here. Here we go. Trouble Mind's happening right about now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting out of sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we go deep. Deep, weird, strange, and wide. Because, of course, we're talking about the super spectrum. John Keel wrote a book about the Mothman, a cryptid, a weird thing with wings, an 8-foot wingspan, and something to that effect, glowing eyes that was causing a dust-up over the course of a couple years in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1967 and 1968. Though he went expecting UFOs. Standard, right? Aliens have arrived, they're messing with us, and that's what he expected to see. What he found out through eyewitness testimony and his own experiences was something far different. It was a fractal. It was a weird idea of the super spectrum itself, as he calls it, that was actually tuning into us and maybe messing with the larger cognitive aspect of the population. Now, we can look at this and say the Fey realm going back hundreds or thousands of years. I can go further back and say the idea of a primordial nature spirit, that this super spectrum has been here forever, since the dawn of time. Who knows? And suddenly when you look at this, and shout out to OG Todd was in the chat, he's like, sounds like BS to me. Sounds like it's more of a technological thing. And that plays too, because who really knows, right? When we're dealing with modern technology, this type of stuff, there's a lot of things flying around in the air that we can't see. Radio waves are great. You can turn on your radio, right? And the antenna picks them up, but they're flying by your head all the time, and you can't hear them. You can't see them. You can't feel them, and yet they're there. And that's the idea tonight. Love to hear your thoughts. James, anything to add? And we'll go to some calls here.
No, just definitely recommend reading that book. And there was even things that Keel experienced where he was on the road and he came across this spot on this one road in that general area where once he got to it, he just became terrified, just totally frightened. And you could not figure out why, because there wasn't any Mothman there. There wasn't any lights in the sky. It was middle of daytime even, I believe. No, actually, I think it was at night, but then he went back there in the middle of the day and could not find anything that was responsible. Anyway, something similar to that, but just, again, seems like he was picking up on some kind of energy that was present in that spot at that time, or at least allowing itself to be felt at that time, if that's the case, that he experienced, and he could not figure it out. So, not all these experiences people have always involve sightings of things or hearing things. Sometimes it is just a weird feeling of energy around.
Yeah, that the sort of the feeling of something changing around you, and many of us have felt these things because it's hard to quantify every single iota of what it means to be a human and how we sort of, I don't know, like for instance, anybody ever work with those scanners, you know, and for whatever reason, when I'm using these things, and going back to the days when I used to work retail and whatnot, I'd be scanning, you know, CDs or whatever they were. And like, I would feel like these like pops, like a stab, like a pinprick. in my thigh or, like my forearm. And I wasn't, shooting the laser at my skin, but it just seemed like being in the proximity of whatever this thing was, whatever the technology was. And this was old school. We're talking like 1995. So who knows? Maybe it was highly dangerous, and maybe I've got a lawsuit coming up. But you know what I mean? Suddenly, like you feel these things, and it only happens around this particular device. And so I wonder, like, what can sort of perturb one force into another, and how they jostle against each other. And even though scientifically they're not supposed to be able to really affect each other in these ways that I'm describing, maybe they do. And maybe it's a little more hit and miss than we could discover scientifically. So anyway, just some ideas there to kind of point out that we have these feelings of like the ozone feeling, right? You kind of smell it, and you don't even know if it's real. It's almost like the sulfur, the demon smell or something, right? But it's so strange when it just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and you look around. There's like, the weather doesn't justify. It's just strange. Anyway, you get my meaning. Anyway, so what is going on with this? What do you know about the super spectrum? Do you believe Keel and the eyewitness testimony and all the weird stuff that went down? And what the hell does it all mean? And of course, how weird does it get? 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. I'm not sure who this is. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you? Go right ahead.
It's Matt from Colorado, buddy.
Oh, my goodness. You finally got through. Thanks for calling. I'll make a note here so I don't have to guess next time. Welcome. Go right ahead, man. Take it wherever you like. This is a weird one, a wild one. What do you know about Keel and the super spectrum?
Yeah, so, I want to take the Derek elevator, the Night Stalker right up, to the maximum level just to kick things off here. And I think that there is, I'm going to use the words realm of reality, perhaps something like higher dimensions or a multiverse or some unseen reality and unseen energies that are existing all around us all the time. And I'm going to go with the tens of thousands at least of, or definitely over 10,000 documented cases of experiences with DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And when people experience that, and if they don't do such a high dose that they project out of their bodies, and if they're able to keep their eyes open, they see things appear, wherever they are, usually a bedroom or something like that, and they see things. Terence McKenna famously called them the machine elves, which later a lot of people were like, they're not really like machines, but these rolling balls of things that would transform, the transforming machine elves. But and this is so common, whatever, 80-90% of people experience this, and they experience other things that are consistent throughout the experience. And they say they see things like, for example, imagine, you're in your bedroom and you're seeing all this stuff around you. And then, at the initial part of the experience and at the end of the part of the experience, what people realize is exactly what you're talking about with this spectrum of reality, that what they end up saying is, this is all around us all the time. It's like we're swimming in it. It exists. It's all around us. We just don't normally perceive it. And then I want to tie that into another couple of experiences, like when people can see the what's called the aura, the energy, the life force around a person's body. Sometimes it's white, sometimes in colors, or when the ancient shamans could see energy, and so what I think's going on here is there is that spectrum of, you could call it perhaps alternate reality or higher reality or different dimensional reality that we're within it. We're like the fish in the water. We're like the fish in the ocean, and the ocean exists, and these other phenomena and this other spectrum exist all around us. We just don't normally perceive it because, why? We're concerned with daily life. We're driving our car. We're going to work, right? Okay, but during different things of altered states of consciousness, entering trance states, chilling the heck out, dreaming, okay, drumming, trance dance, all of these types of things, then what happens is like a switch happens, and our perceptual awareness can turn into this way of perceiving this other spectrum of reality that we normally don't perceive. But the key point is it's always there. It's always around us. It's a real legitimate thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that is at the heart of what this entire super spectrum is about. It's that it is here, and that for some reason we've evolved to maybe not necessarily ignore it, but kind of pick it up in pieces, sort of in fractured, broadcasts here or there. And some people, as I played the clips when we started, Diana Pasulka was talking about very specifically that some people that were able to sort of interact with this field, whatever this is, the super spectrum itself, or see it or recognize it a little more deeply than everybody else, that they were cursed. They were cursed because they noticed it, and then, of course, it took an interest in them. And then we have this weird spectrum that is sentient, that is all pervasive all the time. It's here from birth to death for generations, going back thousands of years, even to the beginning. And so suddenly that really seems like a spooky place to be if you can recognize it and it takes an interest back in you. Like, I would definitely call that cursed, because it means you'll never have that level of peace, sort of the human level of peace. But more fascinating than that to me is that the fact that we've really, if this is real, that we've evolved to basically ignore it. Our physiology is like, nope, not going to deal with that. Almost as if it is too much for us. And sort of that, shout out Derek the Night Stalker as well, sort of he talks about the prism and the light moving through it. And then so we are the prism, but we can only process so much of that unseen realm that flows through. And I think this would be a perfect example of all that. But fire stuff. What else you got?
Well, and I'm going to align my thoughts with yours about sovereignty and some of the comments that she made about the control stuff. And I think, just obviously there's a certain amount of that. There's a certain intent or a force, towards that sort of control, or, some would say kind of the dark side. My mentor would say the forces of opposition. But also, in equivocation here, we have the other side of that, so you have the yin yang, you have the polarity. That's, back to the very, 7 hermetic laws. And so you have the positivity there. And so it's not just control. The opposite might be, we could use the word freedom. And you and I both, we have a big thing for free will, free choice, sovereignty, and so, the whole thought of we're controlled, we're manipulated, we're dominated, we don't have free will and choice, we're victims. You and I, we reject that, and I hope that other people do, because what's the alternative, Michael? The alternative is a very disempowering thought, and thoughts, and so there is this super spectrum, and yes, potentially it's populated by, we could say,
sentient beings or consciousness or something like that. And but is it benevolent? Is it malevolent? Is it both? And I align myself also with James's thoughts that also there's a potential that you could have a sentient being in this spectrum that's not necessarily one or the other, but might be a shapeshifter and change forms. And not to go into a tangent here, but with Carlos Castaneda and the sorcerers, not a good word, but the Toltecs, the men of power, their idea was it's just power. It's neither positive or negative. It's not good or evil. It just kind of is what it is. And if you go back to a concept of I like the word source and I like the word creator. You like to in the religious context, God. Is God good or is God bad or is God everything? And so the whole idea of the shapeshifter, or it can go back and forth. One of these entities or sentient beings, sure, why not? Right? I mean, to them, I'm going to say, potentially from their perspective, because they're not physical and they're not human and they're on some different dimensional realm or whatever you want to call it. It's neither positive or negative or good or bad, and they can appear or shapeshift or whatever, and I think that's for a productive good end. But I think the key thing to hopefully at least entertain the thought is oh gosh, there's a quotation, I can't recall it, but there's more things that are true and real than you can imagine in your strangest science fiction. Do you know that quotation?
No. You butchered that so badly that I have no idea. So, I probably know it, but hey, man, we all can't be perfect every minute. I want to actually push back for just a second on your sovereignty bit too, and not push back, agree and disagree at the same time. Is that, let's say you described it as bleak. If there is some sort of a hidden hand controller that's doing, making humanity do terrible things to each other over the years, over the decades, over the millennia, then it's a bleak space. But I wonder if sort of that sovereignty of the individual, the mind space of being me and controlling me the best I can, is like wrestling sort of an invisible alligator. Like if this field, the super spectrum, is always there, then maybe, just maybe, we're dealing with this as part of just being human, and maybe it's what makes it exceedingly difficult to just be a human, right? Like a dog just sits there and is like cool and chill and just happy to do whatever, But people, you sit them underneath an apple tree and they get fidgety, They want to burn things down. They want to go, piss off their neighbor. They want to, they want to kind of rabble rouse a little bit. And so I don't know. So I can see it both ways. And if this is real, the super spectrum, I kind of see it as for us as a sovereign mind and individual of sort of wrestling that invisible alligator all our lives, because it's always there sort of beckoning us, sort of the devil on the shoulder sort of idea that, you got to be able to say, not today, Satan. And that's my thought on that. Just wanted to add to it. I thought it was fascinating the way you framed it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I consider, from, I think a thought that creates a positive viewpoint is that somehow, some way, we were gifted with free will and free choice. And I think that's the only thing that makes like all of reality and the source being able to know itself, which we talked about, I think, Sunday night, possible. And therefore, this creates this situation, like you said, where you kind of have to take personal responsibility and exercise that free will and free choice. And then, that goes back to, well, if you don't, then, well, you're a victim. And I think that, to the highest degree that we're in these experiences and spectrums, and instead of just being experiencing the consequences of life, that we can be Buddha under the apple tree and contemplate and self-reflect and exercise free will and free choice. That's what gives us the sovereignty. But if we don't do it, well, then we don't have it. But that's our own, only ourselves to blame, because it is the gift. And like I said, without that gift, how is progress and evolution of consciousness and the source and the creator and God trying to know itself even possible? Of course, it has to explore all the options. To explore all the options, you have to have choice, right? And so it's like the movie The Matrix. They have 3 different themes in the movie The Matrix, and it's not novel to that movie. These are old concepts. But there's the Frenchman, Merovingian, or whatever his other name is. But the Frenchman, and the Frenchman says, "Oh, it's all cause and effect," and that is one of the 7 Hermetic laws. And then there's Neo. Okay, now Neo says, no, it's free will and free choice. Okay, and then you have the Oracle, and the Oracle says it's destiny. Okay, and which is a little contrary to free will and free choice, but she kind of mitigates it, and she says, no, you have free will and you have free choice. What you're doing is you're trying to understand why you made that choice, sort of, after the fact retrocausality. Now, as I've wrestled with this, I mean, the title of my book is Escape the Matrix. So I use that as a metaphor and an analogy and everything like that. So what I personally have realized from my experiences in life and just thinking about it is all 3 of them are true. It's not a binary or a trinary thing where it's like, oh, it's free will and free choice. No, it's cause and effect. No, it's fate and destiny. And it's a mixture. And that's how I find it helpful to think about. And when you're dealing with your actual experience and your everyday life and your relationships and your career, your work, pragmatic matters, I think it's important to give at least 5 seconds to consider in which of these 3 realms or combinations of them am I dealing. So I think there's some things that are kind of probably destiny, like who you end up marrying. You have Mrs. Strange. It was probably your destiny. You guys were destined to meet. And then when you met, then cause and effect kicked in, right? And free will and free choice kicked in. I mean, she might have, rejected you, but she chose you. You know what I'm saying?
There was no rejection. Stop it. I know what you're saying. I'm just making. I was trying to weave in a beefcake joke. You can't reject this beefcake. You're the best. I appreciate it very much. Just about out of time. Final thought, and we're gonna get a word from James in here too. So make it as fast as possible. Pretty please. You're the best.
I think the spectrum is all around us all the time, whether we see it or not. Love you, buddy.
You're the best. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for calling. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for jumping through the technological hoops to get in here. Always a pleasure. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great night. You know, we love Matthew in Colorado. Please go give him a follow, troubledminds.org/friends. Check out his books. Super simple as that. Click on friends, scroll down just a little bit. It says Matt's books right there. Click that. Go check it out. Go support our friends. That this is all about. That's what this is all about. James, anything to add? Got about 40 seconds for you if you got anything. If not, we'll come back after the break and take another shot at it.
Yeah, great calls so far from Joe and from Matthew in Colorado. I do think one other thing that's important to and I think maybe this has already been said, I'm not sure, but comes to mind is that if we're dealing with other beings that are not human or don't have a sense of what is right or what is wrong as we think of it, then it is, whatever happens is based on our sense of good or bad. And they may not think of anything. And I mean, I guess you said it earlier too, in a way, with the Fae and all that, but just keep that in mind that, you know, there may not be thoughts of this is going to be good for this person or bad for this person, you know, as we think of it.
Indeed. Fire stuff. And that's why we talk about this stuff. And hey, shout out buddy there, Mr. Malone in the chat. Hey, we just talk about these things seriously because we're, taking them semi-seriously. And that's okay, right? I get it. Go check out Sunday's stream. We had a ton of fun, and we're a very fun group, like I said. But these ideas are not covered the way they should be. And so that's why I do this. That's why I show up, and that's why I'm interested. And thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening to us. Just answering a query and a comment in the chat. This is Troubled Minds on Michael Strange. Be right back. We got Matt Sal coming up, more from James, Jen in Missouri, and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds in just one moment. Be right back.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
This is a message for the ones on the middle band. You are receiving on the only channel you were given. Everything above you is occupied. Everything below you is occupied. Do not adjust your equipment. You have no equipment to adjust. The following is a list of what has visited you. A god, an angel, a neighbor from under the hill, a pilot of a ship that had not been invented, a brother from a planet that was never there. Correction. Nothing on this list has visited you. Nothing on this list has ever left. You are not being watched from far away. You are being read from very close. When you have chosen what to believe, transmission will resume in your preferred format.
Let's check the news. New research published in the journal Brain Communications suggests that migraines may be doing more damage than previously understood. Scientists at a major university and a veterans hospital in Taiwan analyzed MRI scans from over 1,000 healthy individuals to establish a baseline for normal brain aging, then compared those results against migraine sufferers, finding that migraine patients show signs of accelerated biological aging, particularly in regions tied to memory and emotion. The research adds to a growing body of evidence that migraines are not simply a pain condition, but a disorder affecting the broader brain environment. Turning to planetary defense, Chinese researchers from the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology have proposed a nuclear solution to the asteroid threat, one that involves drilling deep into an incoming space rock and detonating a device from within. Computer simulations published in the journal Space Science and Technology suggest a 300 kiloton blast could obliterate a 164-foot asteroid, while detonating the device roughly 100 meters below the surface triples the change in the rock's velocity compared to a shallower strike. The proposal comes as NASA has warned that up to 15,000 mid-sized asteroids exist that are large enough to destroy a city but small enough to evade early detection. And finally, a quiet but significant shift is underway in digital advertising. Time magazine has begun serving ads specifically formatted for AI agents rather than human readers, working with an ad technology platform to embed sponsored question and answer style content into stripped-down, text-only versions of its web pages. The strategy is designed to influence large language models like ChatGPT at the point where they index brand information, potentially shaping AI-generated responses seen by millions of users. As one executive involved in the effort put it, influencing an AI system reaches far more people than any single advertising campaign ever could. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. I have no idea what's going on with my my scenes here. We're taking your calls tonight. Look, we're talking John Keel, okay? The super spectrum itself. Now, what is that? It's an unknown. It's something as yet to be quantified, but his theory was very simple. It was, well, I mean, quite a bit more complicated, but to boil it down to very simple is it's an unseen field that's affecting us at all times. It might be a sentient conduit that's broadcasting into us somehow and even changing our perceptions of not just who we are, but how we see the world. And this has been made famous, this idea, through, of course, the Mothman prophecy, the movie and the book he wrote. And going back to all that information is linked in the description down below. If you're interested in more of these ideas to kind of chase down where the ideas came from, it's all linked there. And shout out, they don't need our help, but Joe Rogan and Diana Pasulka for talking about this recently. I found it highly fascinating. And I think this is one of those things that we should consider as maybe. And of course, don't forget that every time you say maybe, there's also a maybe not. And that certainly plays here too. So just kind of throwing ideas out. And that's the whole point of this is it doesn't have to be so dire and conclusion based. It could just be an open-ended conversation about wild ideas by dark of night. That's what we do. And James, anything to add? We'll go to Matt Sal in California, and then we got Jen in Missouri on the line.
Yeah, no, great call so far. I would say just I agree with you. Up until the point where you have an experience that you can't explain, then it's kind of different for yourself anyway. So, but that's always my sort of stance when it comes to all these things.
Yeah, it's where the rubber meets the road, right? Like that they say in the MMA world, you go into a fight having a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And then, of course, that goes out the window. And then all your training and muscle memory and all the things, your lizard brain kind of takes over and it's fight or flight, survive type of stuff. So I get you. I understand. And so sorry to be frivolous about it, but surely you understand both sides of that coin, and that's why you brought it up. You were amazing. As always, hang tight. We'll get back to you before we end this up. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Do you believe there is, some kind of force that's, I don't know, causing strife or trauma or drama or all of the above that is known as the super spectrum? That's what we're talking about. John Keel's idea from his books, not just a Mothman, but also the Eighth Tower. Let's go to Matthew in Colorado. Or sorry, I did it wrong. Matthew in California. Mattsa, what's up, brother? Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Thank you for enjoying that bonus track that I added. It was too good. I had to put it in. It was too good. Welcome. How you doing tonight? Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mike. Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Thank you for having me on. Good show.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, man. I want to talk about like these dimensions, and we were talking about string theory, how these dimensions are next to each other. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what like James was talking about. All the things are bleeding together into our dimension. So like, what's the difference between a UFO and an orb? What's the difference between Mothman and Bigfoot? You talk about the super spectrum. maybe this is where all the things come from and they're bleeding into our realm. And I think about string theory, but I also think about, what if it's more than that? What if it's infinite, like bubbles in an ocean, and we're bouncing our universe, our dimension and our, like, how far our universe goes out is bumping into other realities, and it's causing these bleed throughs. And that's where everything strange is coming from UFOs to Bigfoot to everything, these dimensions. And then you could think about what's inside our dimension. Could there be pocket dimensions? And I want to talk about that. But just thinking about that 1 second, thinking about how we talk about the thresholds from the fairy realm. And we talk about, sometimes you see a ring of mushrooms. That's considered the fairy realm. You're not supposed to go into those, or you can get lost. And we have the missing 411 and all those stories. But I wonder, in the fairy realm, is there a ring of garbage, like plastic bags and cans of soda? And if a fairy walks into those rings, can they get stuck into our dimension, into Earth? Laughing.
Yeah, no, I got you. Sort of earthbound with our sort of periodic table, sort of like a counterbind in the fairy realm.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I get it. And look, I'm not a magician or a wizard, but I have played a fair amount of D&D and grew up reading those books, so I can conceptualize that. And by the way, too, don't forget that some of those frameworks of fiction come in very handy when you're talking metaphysics and these larger conversations, because some of these things do make sense, meaning in the long term of mythology and folklore, and why these rules are very specific regarding, iron over the door to keep the fae out, or, the horseshoe having to be one particular way instead of the other, like this type of stuff. But just as an example, but it's very complicated, it's very dense, and it's very specific. And we've done shows on that in the past, but I think it's worth pointing out here. Firestar brother, go ahead. What else you got?
Yeah, that's threshold magic. But just going back to the dimensions and are they bleeding through, and talking about pocket dimensions inside of our dimensions. And I'm gonna kind of go pop culture and go total nerd and talk about, of course, the first thing I think about when I think about pocket dimension, like a dimension next to ours, is like Pokemon. It's a game where in the show there's these monsters and you can collect them in these balls, but they never say, as far as I know, and I'm old school, I go back, but I don't know the new stuff. But as far as I remember, they never really say, like, how do they collect these monsters in the ball? Are they going to another dimension? Are they going to another space? Are they going to another realm? Like, what is going on? How are these monsters collected in this little ball? And then you can summon them again. Where are they going, or where are they coming from? It never talks about that in the lore. But I like that thing about, if we are bumping up against other dimensions and we have pocket dimensions inside of our dimension, can it keep going forward or backwards? Like, we're in a dimension and a dimension and a dimension, and then there's other smaller dimensions inside our dimension. It just keeps going.
I would think so. And scientifically, I would say, again, I'm not a scientist, but sort of looking at the greater cosmos, we talk about sort of physics breaking down at the event horizon of a black hole. But guess what? There are primordial black holes all over the known universe, as we're told. And, the bowling ball size type of black hole that's out there. And maybe, just maybe, that explains what you're describing as the idea of a pocket dimension. Okay, not the massive singularity, but sort of a smaller space that's, I don't know, dare we suggest, a little more gentle when it comes to crossing the singularity itself, or sorry, the event horizon itself.
Yeah, man, I like that. I feel like it can go forward or backwards, as above, so below. But I feel there's something there. I was going to talk about pocket dimensions in other pop culture, like the Vampire Diaries. They kind of have in that show, they kind of have a pocket world that talks. It's kind of like a Groundhog's Day. The day happens over and over again, And it happens to be where if there's magicians or powerful like wizards or witches or vampires or werewolves that are too strong and they're killers, they would put these people in this like pocket dimension, like a prison. And it's kind of like a Groundhog's Day, the same day over and over again. And it's like a prison for them. The day that they messed up, the day that they did the wrong thing, it's over and over again. I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I do feel like maybe there is dimensions next to us, and maybe that's what all this is, like bleeding in. Like every phenomena, ghosts, Bigfoot, the Mothman, these are all bleeding through to our dimension somehow through some sort of doorway or wormhole, or even like stepping outside in Beetlejuice, where they go outside and they're in a different dimension. I feel like this is something that could be happening all around us, and we can't see, we don't know, we don't have that. It talked about a organ that we don't have to see it all. And what if all these things are right next to us and we just cannot understand them? And all these paranormal or whatever you want to call it experiences are just things bleeding through, and we're trying to figure it all out. Follow me?
Yeah, well said. And I think the science mind would agree with you there in that, the visible light spectrum for us is very sliver. Mm-hmm. It's tiny. And so there's all kinds of things happening around us that we don't really recognize. And, there are other animals, the flora and the fauna of the world that do recognize these things and even interact with them. Photosynthesis, for one, and some of these other things that are, seem to be magic or mysterious or, very non-human stuff. But there's all kinds of things happening around us all the time, and all invisible spectrums that I think the science mind would probably agree with you in that regard, but then probably stop the train when we're like, well, maybe it's affecting us from some boogeyman from the other side. You know what I mean? Once you start talking dimensions, science steps off. But I certainly think that when you talk about being manipulated or being influenced by things that we cannot perceive directly, then I certainly think there's a conversation there, because neuroscience and consciousness and these ideas are very complicated things. And so, as usual, worthy of discussion. And that's why I'm here. And of course, that's why you're here. Fire stuff, brother. What else you got?
Yeah, like night vision and just infrared vision, stuff like that. I feel like there is something there. I'm going to let the next person go. But thank you, Mike. Good show.
You were the best. Appreciate the call. Thank you for the insights. And always a pleasure. You were the best. You know him, you love him. That is Matthew in California. Sorry about that. It's affectionately Matzal. Temple of the Owl is the name of his show. Go check it out. He's got a massive esoteric book collection that he's synthesizing for 2026 and beyond, into podcasts, into ideas, into the things as he just described. And that's the whole point. Let's get together. Let's talk about some of these things. Let's read books together. Let's share the books we read, and let's consider ideas that really don't get enough juice. That's what this is all about. A little more juice for some of these ideas. Troubledminds.org. Click the friends link. Scroll down just a little bit. If you click on Matzal right there, it'll take you to his Spotify. I need to change that, but templeoftheowl.com. Thank you, Sweets, for linking that in all the chats. Appreciate you guys. Thanks to the mods out there helping us. But that's it. That's the way this works. Let's help each other. Let's talk about these ideas. And don't forget, this is called Troubled Minds, not a troubled mind singular. James, anything to add? Fire stuff from Matzal there, and we'll go to Jen.
Yes, great call from Matzal. I do want to say too, if anyone ever has thought about this or not, you could say that the Beetlejuice movies there's a small bit of sci-fi in them. And if you don't think so, maybe watch them again, or if you haven't watched them yet, watch them. And then get back to me and see if you pick up on why I'm saying that. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. The old teaser from a 30-year-old movie. I'm into it. Because I haven't seen it. I'm the only guy that probably has never seen Beetlejuice. I was watching an interview real quick with Matt Damon and Tom Holland that does a new Spider-Man. And Matt Damon was like, hey, this was a clip. It was on X. And Tom Holland's like, I've never seen The Matrix. And Matt Damon's like, what? Like, what? You've literally never seen the original Matrix. And he's all, no. And Matt Damon says, I am jealous of you. I am jealous because you're going to get to experience that for the first time again. And I can no longer do that because I've seen it 1,000 times. But you're going to be able to have your mind blown. And anyway, interesting thoughts. So I'm holding off, James. I've got an experience that you cannot even begin to comprehend. I get to see Beetlejuice for the first time.
You're the definitely can at this point. Yeah, my gosh.
My gosh.
Not like I've ruined 2 DVDs of that movie already, the first one already over the years, from watching it too many times. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just teasing you. But I mean, that's funny.
Yeah,
it's also funny. It's also funny.
Hilarious.
It's also funny. You're the best. 702-857-6939. We're talking the idea of Keel's super spectrum. And what does it mean? And do you believe any of this? And look, Todd earlier said in the chat that this sounds more like a technological thing to him. Maybe not. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Let's go to Jen in Missouri. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you? Go right ahead.
Hey, yeah, I believe it. I think that there is something about there being some type of mechanism behind how all of this is configured, So, I mean, I think people are having experiences based off of who they encounter, where they are when they encounter them, whatever is around them as well, and who else is around. I think this is all just some kind of huge grid of I guess, some sort of, the life force itself is reactory or something. Kind of like tuning into a radio station or something like that, like certain places you might be, or even like certain plants or something like the ring of mushrooms. Made me think that maybe like, people are picking up on all sorts of communications from the other realm. So you have like, whether it's chemical or endocrine or, through the sense or all of those things happening at once, that the body's just doing itself as a sort of vehicle of this material realm. It's like perfectly attuned to pick up on the entire environment. But then your own psychic, the driver of your body, it's the one that's like fine tuning, what it can accept or not accept. But being in like certain environments, like around certain maybe environments or certain regions, I think location plays a huge part in this. Like your geographical location, even just by, so many yards or something could make a big difference. If there's a whole spectrum of connectivity going on, being located in a particular location or being around a certain individual could act as like a conduit where you're tuned in. Like the idea of how radio waves work is that you have like a conductor and a receiver, and they can be, so many miles away, but they are able to line up and connect. And it's because there's certain, aspects in place to ensure it. The same thing would be like an old magic. You have like different types of items you might collect that have different types of properties. And those are conduit to other things of similar receptive properties. And so there's a quiet communication constantly occurring throughout our entire existence. It's driving the whole machine of how we encounter each other and what we get out of those encounters and how we respond and affect the world. Due to who we are, it's not necessarily destiny. It's certain clocks, like, clicking into place, that tuning in sort of aspect where people who come across each other are tuned into each other, or they're not, and you could, but anyways, it's something like that going on, an invisible communication system. Not so much you're going into another dimension. It's like you're tuning in to what's already there. I mean, you could call it that, but I don't even think it has to be that wild. I think it just is a matter of that we don't understand the type of system that we have, the radio system, the body that we have. Like, we don't understand the way it's perceiving this reality and how it's trying to express what the brain and the eyes are seeing to the psyche inside, the conscious mind inside, to communicate to the driver. I mean, many times the body has to overcome, the mental driver, and it will just do what it needs to do. That's muscle memory. That's survival. Like the body will go against the mind and do what it absolutely must do based off of the chemical information, like through the endocrine system that it's hearing. That it knows that is true. And all animals use that, like they know that that is true and the mind can't fool it. So it's reactory to the environment. So if you see something, or like in your, like the Mothman or something, or you see something that just shouldn't be there, it doesn't matter if you don't think it should be there. The eyes are seeing it, regardless. And there's not only that. Many times there's accompaniment of scent and sound and many other senses that would confirm to the person that that is the case. And then it's true. You could say the entirety of reality, like if people should lose their minds and they're seeing things that aren't there, or like Lovecraft is a good example. Many people said that he would see these creatures from the other side from his nightmares, and he would have these episodes even at coffee and things like that. But I just think that it's not that we don't have to have anything like string theory or like wormholes or dimensions if we don't want to. This could be a simple chemistry, like completely grounded in nature experience that the psyche has to kind of decipher itself and decide how it's going to handle the information it's receiving. It's like when you meet a familiar face and there's a sort of, this is synchronized for this or that, or somebody just shows up at the right moment, or something, micro expressions are understood. And there's a sort of trigger moment of honesty about, like, that's beyond anything anybody was thinking about. It's something rooted in that, in the machine that we're in that is so finely tuned beyond, like, we are literally like, we don't know it, but we are like spiders in a web. Like we can feel like everything beyond us, but we just choose what to listen to and what to not listen to. And depending on how you're tuned into it, you'll decide what you will hyper pick up on, not pick up on, like you're just picking up frequencies or something. What do you think of that?
Yeah, and shout out in the chat there, Dan says quantum entanglement. And so in some capacity, like you're right, we could throw out all the ideas of string theory and the many worlds and all this stuff and dimensions and all the rest. I agree.
It's like smelling a rose. You know what I mean? Like if you smell water running through a creek or you go to a lake or a beach, like is it quantum entanglement that I notice the ocean and then I go home, I can still smell it if I imagine it hard enough? Like, is that quantum entanglement? Because we can put it away.
Maybe.
If it's too, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
we don't really need it. Like, you can remember things. You can be like, I remember this or that. I'm not trying to be poetic. I'm just saying, like, we don't have to have quantum entanglement. I mean, is that what that is? Like if I go home and I'm like, trying to remember specifically an event that happened earlier, is that quantum entanglement? I mean, they gave us exotic terms to explain things we already know. Yeah.
Agreed.
They validate it if you use those keywords, because the language is a key too, I guess, to different.
Well,
of course, the sounds and everything.
Hold on though. If you don't throw out some scientific terms in there, they think you're a quack. So you got to do a little bit of that stuff and a little bit of the.
You got a paper that helps.
Yeah. Just saying.
Go get a paper.
Yeah. Exactly.
It takes you a couple of years.
Cite the paper. I'm just saying. Like you fully understand because you said it. You said it very well. Is that there are these key terms that when you say them now, it makes this discourse acceptable, and the quantum stuff is woo as hell. And nobody really fully understands what the hell's going on there. And we're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to reason that out. And so it is we
just know that there's a silent communication. There's some type of silent interaction with the environment, like fear. People who can tell that they're going to be afraid before they are. Like, they're like minding their own business, just walking down the road, and they start get kind of scared feeling. And then lo and behold, it's a black bear like over the way. They didn't even know, but their body already knew because it smelled it and maybe it heard it. But the mind didn't know it yet, but they got scared or got kind of uncomfortable. It's because their body was telling them, like their machine was telling, if you want to put it that way, their radio was like, ooh, something over here. Yeah. So I think that there's something to, there's something about the body. It's not even intuition or telling the future or anything like that. It's like that the body is able to tune in to something through its mechanism. It's not necessarily, it doesn't even have to be, I don't think it's psychic. I think it's physical to the environment. Like the creature is like that. And the spirit's just trying to, not the spirit, but the intelligence, that's putting up the story, the narrator of our lives, that's within us, guiding our decisions and everything. I mean, however you want to put it, but that they are reacting to the bodies, because they're two separate things. I mean, when they tune up perfectly, like when the body and the mind are like one, that's when you see incredible things, like feats that are not usually accomplished and things like that, but because the body will just do whatever you tell it to, if the mind can believe it, it's wild, I think. So,
Agreed.
I don't know.
So some of the mundane stuff that gets skipped over all the time is absolutely wild. And thank you for pointing it out. Fire stuff. What else you got?
True. That's about it.
Appreciate
Talk to you later. Have a good night.
You're the best. Jen in Missouri.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Arcane Observer, please give her a follow. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down just a little bit. It is alphabetical. And you will find Jennifer there. Click that right there. Bingo. Go check out her YouTube channel. She's making new content, putting some fresh stuff up, which is fantastic. She also is a co-host with James here of Salcedo Paranormal on the weekends. And great stuff. Anything to add to what Jen said, James? And we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I do agree with that. As far as, just in my own experience, because I can't see very well, when I'm in a room full of people and they're going by, I can sense when they're going by, even if they don't make a lot of noise. I can just feel it. And for that reason, I try to get into corners of rooms whenever I can. And because I just feel better with no one going behind me. So, but yeah, great to hear from Jen, and great calls all night. And thank you for having me on as always.
Glad to have you. The pleasure is mine and all ours. I appreciate you very much. SalcedoParanormal.com, SALSIDO Paranormal.com. Go check out James. Go buy his books. Go support the man. Go check out his podcast and all the places. Go listen, download, do the things. And like I said, I'm not exaggerating. When you look at all the work he's put into what he's done, the podcasting, the writing, all of the appearances he's made here, is the co-hosting. He's literally become a foremost paranormal archive on the entire internet. Like he's literally one of those top guys now. And like I said, he doesn't get any credit for it. So let's spread the word and let's get some credit for James. And like I said, go help him in all the places and let people know that, hey, this guy's been doing work for years, doing work and kind of looking at all these ideas, not as tropes, but as sort of the granular aspects of what the paranormal itself means. So yeah, pleasure's all mine. Glad to have you here. You are the best, the glue of the show, and all the rest of the things. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for being cool and chill and smart and all the things. You're amazing, James, the dynamic man that he is. Look, I'm killing it tonight. We're going to end it early because we had too much fun on Sunday, and I'm tired, and I'm not going to be editing till 1 a.m. So sorry about that. I'm going to sleep tonight. Look. The whole point of these discussions are, I don't feel like I have to explain myself after 8+ years or whatever, but you get it, right? Like you either get this or you don't. And you either think I'm tuned in, or you think I'm a quack or whatever, like whatever polarized thing, but I don't care. This isn't about people unless we're talking about you. This isn't about me. This is about ideas. Okay? People talking about ideas. It doesn't have to be ridiculous or drama. We don't have to fight with each other on points we disagree with. Recognize how many things we do agree on. And that's why I think this space is so special, and you guys make it so, because we can talk about these things, agree and disagree, and then move on to the next day and not have our feelings hurt, our feathers ruffled, or anything. That's what it's all about. If you want to help us help our friends, troubledminds.org. Click the friends link /friends on the website. Scroll down. Look, there's so many people there. So many people. And look, it is an in list. It's not an out list. If you belong on this list, all you have to do is help us 1 iota. Help us on social media. Call in once in a while. Be active in the chat. Be nice. Be cool and chill. Be tuned in. Just come hang out with us, and we'll put you up on the list. So if you belong on this list, to reach out to me, hit me up on Discord. We're shameless Discord plug. right there at the top of the webpage. There's a blue button. Join the Discord. Come hang out, and come meet these amazing people. Like, you hear them, right? And I cut them off and stuff, and because of the radio timing, and we try and share the airwaves as much as possible. There's a lot of very smart people that are part of this, and I'm honored and blessed to be in the middle of it. Come meet them. Come hang out on the Discord if you have not. It is a chat client. It's a voice client. It's completely free. By clicking that blue button, it doesn't just put you automatically on the show. You come in. We'll teach you how to just ask. I'm new. How do I do this? We'll help you. Just come in, hang out. It's a chat thing. You can just chat, type. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening, but we're not going to tell you who to vote for. Every conversation does not devolve to politics. And we're going to keep our head in the clouds a little bit. We're going to keep one foot on the ground and our mind entangled with the clouds and the cosmos above. That's it. That's it. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for caring about the ideas, even though they seem disjointed, angular, weird, off, whatever. Like you pick the term. Even though it seems like we're off the beaten path, we are, but that doesn't always mean you're lost. Okay? That's that. As we finish, this one goes out to each and every one of you. Thanks for being nice. Thanks for being nice to yourselves. Thanks for being nice to each other. Thanks for recognizing it's a complicated world we live in. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.